Welcome to Education Today, the guest teacher edition. I'm your host, Solanke. After 15 years as a secondary English teacher, I stepped away from the classroom and took a 1-year hiatus. Now I'm back in a completely new capacity. I'm a substitute teacher, and I get to experience teaching all grade levels and subjects from kindergarten to 12th grade. Join me as I document my journey, seeing education through a brand new lens and a different angle. Welcome to week 3 of Guest Teacher with your host, Solanke. I just completed week 3 of substitute teaching, and let me tell you, teaching is not for the faint of heart. I've been out of the classroom for a year. I am pooped. I am coming home, even if it's just a half day that I do. I'm coming home and I am falling asleep. I am staring at the wall for like an hour to get my bearings. Oh, yeah, teaching is tough. It is tough. Anyway, so week 3 of substitute teaching, I saw some things this week and I saw some things this week. So I just want to talk about some of those things that I saw this week. First of all, I have been in quite a few elementary schools at this point, and every single elementary school has a unique way or a unique solution for dismissal and lunch. Every school has a different way of doing it. Some are very rudimentary, some are very sophisticated. And some of these, so I'm used to high school, and in high school, for dismissal, it's like you are half grown. You're not completely grown. You are half grown. You know if you drive a car home. If you drive a car home and you have a driving license and your car is parked in the student parking lot, find your car when the bell rings and go. Get out of here, drive. You know if you get on a school bus because you are 15, 16, 17, 18, go to your bus. And they would always threaten the students, if you leave campus and go to Walmart, I don't know what these students' obsession is with going to Walmart. Don't come back on campus. Find your another way home. You're not getting on the bus. That's what I love about high school. It's like, you missed your bus. Too bad. Call your parents. Find a way home. If you're a bus driver, go to the bus ramp. Find your bus. If there's any bus changes, we'll alert you, but we're not walking you to the bus because you're grown. So find your bus. If you are a car rider, go to the line. Text your parents. You know what your car looks like. We don't have to stand there in the car line saying, Phillips, kindergarten. Stephen, grade 3. You don't have to do that. No. You know what your parents' car looks like. Find it, bye. And if you walk home, but walk home safely, but walk home. But in elementary school and middle school, but especially middle school, they come up with such unique ways of organizing these children, some of which are babies, kindergartners, preschoolers, so they really need help figuring out who's a car rider, who needs to get on the bus, who's walking. And oh my goodness, my apologies anytime. I don't think we did it too often. My apologies to all of my kids' elementary school teachers anytime that we changed the way our kids went home. Because talk about throwing a spanner in the wrench. Oh my goodness. This person's usually a car rider, but now they're going on a bus. Which bus? Let's find the bus. Let's find the bus. Or vice versa. This person was a bus rider, but now they're going in the car. Please don't get them on the bus because the parent is going to be in the car line. And then this week I experienced when the parents are getting that message to the office late in the day. I mean, emergencies happen. It's like, this is my classroom. I don't even know which kid it is. So yeah, that can throw a spanner in the works. But some of the systems are very rudimentary for dismissal. And some of them are so sophisticated. I think that some of these administrators who came up with these, or even teachers who came up with these systems need to be working for the government. That's how sophisticated some of these systems. Super impressed with the system some of these schools have come up with for dismissal. So something really cool happened to me this week. So 2 years ago, my mother was diagnosed with leukemia and she was sick, and I had to take a leave of absence. At the time, I didn't know how long that leave would be, but it ended up being 5 weeks. And there was like a substitute who I would consider like what we call a permanent sub in the school I used to work in. And I'd asked her, hey, I have to go. I got to go and take care of my mom. Do you want to take over my classes? I don't know how long I'll be gone. She said yes. So she became the permanent sub, and every day I would text her lessons, and she would text me what was going on in the classroom, and so we became kind of close. Actually, I'd been working with her before then anyway, because she was always at the school. But she was the one who substituted my classes for the 5 weeks that I was out while my mom was ill and then subsequently passed away. And I bumped into that substitute not today, this week, at one of the schools that I was working in. She works there permanently. She's not a sub anymore. She's a teacher, and she works there. And it was amazing to bump into her. What makes it amazing is that it is exactly 2 years ago this month that was all going on. So it was so nice to see a friendly face, a familiar face. And there was one day we actually ended up having lunch at the same time and sat down together. And I was like, this is just like old times when we worked together at the high school, and we would often have lunch together. It was really nice to catch up. It felt nice to have a familiar face when you're going from school to school to school. You don't know anybody. It felt like home. And I was actually there for 2 days. I saw her. That was really nice. So I will preface this by saying I would never intend or have this podcast to be a place where teachers are bashed, where educators are bashed, because I know what it's like to be an educator, because I am an educator, and I know how hard it is. And I know that sometimes when it seems like somebody's not being effective as a teacher, there's so many other things that are going on in terms of including things like, well, who did you put in that class? You know, and well, how many people did you put in that class? There's so many different factors, you know. But this week I had a job where it was only for half the day, but it was so eye-opening. It was for half the day. It was a high school position, and it was VE math push-in. So for the lay people, that means varying exceptionality. So students with various learning disabilities. And it was math. It was, one of them was algebra 2, one was algebra 1, and one was geometry. And they were all regular classes. You know, they have like regular and honors, advanced, different levels like that. So it was like a lower level class. So what this position is, the position is a special ed teacher who does what's called push-in, meaning they will go into the classroom, not necessarily for the whole period, but for part of the period to help specific kids on the roster. So that what that tells me as an educator, it means that in that class is a regular class, but in that class, there are enough kids who are labeled as special ed to warrant having a special ed teacher go in the class and assist the students. And that, well, I've seen it done where the teacher will assist just those students on the special ed roster. But then I've also seen it done where the teacher will assist any kid who needs help, any kid who's off task, any kid who requires assistance, which I think is a better way to do it. But so I went into 3 different classes, and this is Monday morning. This is first thing, 7 a.m. on Monday morning. Oh, wow. First thing, Monday morning, 7 a.m. Quadratic equations, algebra 2. This poor teacher is teaching himself. He's doing equations on the board for an hour. Loving it because he's a math teacher. These kids are not interested at all in quadratic equations. 7 a.m. on Monday morning, as I would not be either. But he is teaching himself and one other kid, because every question he asks, he is raising his hand. That one person is raising their hand and one person is answering. There are kids who are just, I'm walking around as the VE teacher, just trying to get kids like back on task. Sit up, take your head off the desk, put the eyelash color away. It's nice that you're eating breakfast, but can you stay on task? Do you understand them? No, we don't understand. Can you help us? I'm thinking in my head, yeah, I'm not the one to help you with quadratic equations. I would definitely need a refresher, but I really was just there as a support person to help keep the kids on task, because I was just there for, obviously the person who's in there is going to be I'm guessing a certified math teacher as well as an ESE teacher. But the kids were disinterested. It was early in the morning. It was so early, 7 a.m. The kids were not interested. I got the impression that a lot of the kids struggled and just tuning out. I got the impression that some kids, including the girl who was answering all the questions, shouldn't be in there and should be in an honors class. But I know that from my school, if there had been a an evaluation where an admin came in to evaluate that teacher would have ended up on an improvement plan, because it's like teaching 101. First of all, you have your back to the class because you're doing all these equations and all this foolishness is ensuing. Not really foolishness, but people putting their heads down, people just having conversations. And that's another thing that I've noticed that is really making classroom management difficult for me as a substitute, is that in this particular county, they seem to have moved away from individual desks to tables, groups. And in this high school, what I saw was every classroom that I went to 4 different classrooms, had this setup where they have like sets of tables in the front row, almost like a college classroom, sets of tables in the second row. But on the last row, high, like bar stools, counter height tables, and like high bar stools. And in all the classes I went into, well, the 3 math classes that I went into, the ones who were sitting on those bar stools are the ones that are just yapping at the back of the class on the bar stools, sitting on the nice seats. The ones who really wanted to learn were at the front, which I guess is not too different from the way things were when I was at school in the 80s. You sit in the front if you're serious, unless the teacher moves you there. But those tables, you can't separate people. You can move people around, but you can't separate people. And kids were just talking over him. And I was just walking around trying to stop it. But yeah, if that would have been in my district, he would have been on an improvement plan, because he was lecturing with his back to the class while that was going on. He was calling on only one student. He was doing all the work. The kids were just copying down the equations and stuff. I don't know if they really understood it. Some of them just gave up and just stopped doing it. But nothing interactive, not even though they're sitting in groups, no group works. Now, I will say it's not always that it's group work. Sometimes it has to be lecture. Because of the time of year it was, each of the math classes I went to, it was like review, not really review, but it's like the end of the quarter's coming, tests are coming up, or test review for tests they just did. And it's like, I could sense that the teachers were like, we're getting to a certain point and we're not there yet. It's the end of the quarter and these kids haven't got it yet. I got to get them to where they need to be. And I felt that kind of pressure and stress on the teachers, trying to get the kids where they needed to be. And because of that, they were just pushing through. But the kids weren't going with them. The kids were not going with them. And in this class, yeah, he would have been on an improvement plan. Like I said, back to the class, teaching himself. Nobody's engaged except for the one girl who was answering questions. Nothing interactive. And like I said, sometimes you have to sit and listen to lecture. That's how you're going to learn math sometimes. And sometimes you can do group assignments and different things. And maybe that day was the day when they had to sit and look at that review. Because what I don't appreciate is when administrators go into classrooms and say, well, you didn't do anything interactive, you didn't do any group work. And I'm like, yeah, not today. Not today. Because today we need to learn this and I need to teach it to them. But if you come tomorrow, you'll see them applying it in groups or individually. The next class, same thing. I am a special ed push-in, and it's this time it's algebra. No, it's geometry. Interesting. There was a boy in there who was causing so many problems. He was so off task. And in this class and in the previous class, the kids were so rude. They were like, I was like, wow. So COVID teaching is still around. There was a kid in each class who would audibly say, so the teacher could hear, I don't like this teacher. I don't like the way she teaches. She doesn't know what she's doing. And I was like, really, dude? You're going to say that loud? That's so disrespectful. And I think sometimes kids say that when they're frustrated because they don't understand the material sometimes, but still so rude. I guess COVID teaching is still around, yeah. But yeah, in this class, there was one kid who was he was really rude, off task, talking over the teacher. Poor woman was so flustered and frustrated. At one point, she called the office and an administrator came to pulled some of the kids out, talked to them, told the kids to get back on task. Same setup as the previous classroom, row of desks, in the back of the class, a row of counter height. And that back row, not all of them, but some of those tables were the ones who just wanted to socialize. Yeah, the teacher was doing a similar thing to the other guy. What she was doing, actually, the other guy, the algebra 2 guy was doing the same thing too. And that is, they would ask a question and they would answer the question. Like they would answer it. And, teaching 101, that's something else he'd be marked down for. You ask a question, you give wait time, you call on a student to answer. But they were answering the questions. And I just felt that they were just trying to get the kids to a certain point because it was the end of the quarter and these kids weren't getting it. And these poor teachers were trying to get them there. And So, like I said, this is not to bash teachers. I will never bash teachers because I know how to be a teacher. But I'm observing the environment, and part of the environment is this rush to get not rush this timeline to get the kids to a certain place where it's like, do you even have time to go back and reteach because you've got to get them there? But yeah, the kid in that class in the geometry class who's causing a lot of problems. I was talking to him, and at one point he told me that he's younger than everyone else in the class, but he was so proud that he was in there as a ninth grader, which in the school I was in, that's actually a ninth grade class, I think, geometry. But I mean, you could do it in 10th grade too. This depends on, you know, um, how easy or how hard algebra is for you. But he was in geometry because he said that he had done algebra 1 over the summer in 2 weeks online. And I said, well, this is why you don't understand the material, because algebra 1 is foundational to geometry. He was not getting the material, and he was frustrated, and he was taking out on the teacher and being rude and disrespectful. But the fact that, and I think he was telling the truth about him, because I know kids who do that, do geometry online and just do it quickly. He's missing chunks of information that are foundational to algebra 1. Now he's frustrated. Now he's not, sorry, it's foundational to geometry, and now he's frustrated. And now he's decided he's going to disrupt the whole class, which is what he was doing. And I really try and, get them back on task, but I wasn't really successful. The administrator calmed them down, but they just decided just to give up on actually doing the work. So yeah, the teacher was doing equations. Her back was turned to the class a lot of the time, not the whole time. Half of the kids in that class were interested and were on task, but the other half were to be very silly and off task. But she had actually a lot of interactive materials. She had like what do you call it? Flashcards. So I'd go to one table to help them, and the kids were like, "Well, what is a slope?" And I was like, "Look at the flashcard. Pick up the flashcard slope. Oh, okay. Turn it around, and then you'll see." Okay. So she had these really cool flashcards. I like that. She had some other materials on the desk to help them. But yeah, half of the kids in the class were on task and interested. Half of them seemed like they were struggling and then giving up. And again, so these are regular classes that have a decent amount of special ed kids in to warrant there being a special ed teacher who comes in. So, and the numbers in these classes were large. I counted them. You're talking like 28, between 28 and 30. So you're stacking the deck against the teachers, because if the classes were small, see, this is one issue I've always had with special ed in Florida. That I remember this back when I was teaching 6th grade. If there were 2 teachers in the room, and they seem to have gone away from the 2-teacher model, right? Teacher plus special ed teacher. Now it seems to be teacher plus push in special ed, which is like someone who comes in for a time but then leaves. And they have a lot of paperwork to do, I know. But when we had that model, and we think it still exists in a lot of places, where you have the teacher and a co-teacher. Now you have 2, and the co-teacher is not an assistant. Co-teacher is a teacher. There are 2 teachers in the room, but one is special ed. What they would do is they would double up on the students. So instead of having 15 students, now you'd have 30. So the times that I was co-teaching, we'd have 30 kids in the class. Well, now you have chaos, and those classes now become chaotic, and it's just really hard to manage because there's too many kids in the class. And in that same day, they sent me to, I think the teacher came back, they sent me to another class. It was an English class, and I was like, yeah, this is right up my street. Well, when I walked in there, I realized, I said, this is honors. It was English for honors. So senior honors, about 15 kids in the class. It was really small, nice and calm, really small. But the class where the kids need more help because they are struggling in math. There was even a kid in one of those classes, math classes, who didn't speak any English. I spoke to him in Spanish a little, and his book was in Spanish. Those classes are stacked. Those classes have a lot of kids in 28, 30. There's a lot of behavior problems in there, and the deck is stacked against the teachers. It's just really hard. It's really hard. And really, what you should have is, if you have an honors class or an AP classes, those are the classes that can be large. And that has happened to me. I've had 30 kids in AP line. That's not fun grading all those essays. But behavior-wise, it's a breeze. But I've also had 30 kids in a regular ed class without a co-teacher, or regular ed class with a co-teacher. And there's often kids with behavior problems in there, and There's kids who need a lot of help, and there's just kids who are very disinterested. And you always, in those classes when there's stacked like that and it's a lower level class, you always have just about 2 or 3 class clowns who just throw a spanner in the works. It's not that they're bad kids, but they just want to be the class clown and they just disrupt everything all the time. You just have 2 or 3 of them and just forget about it. It's just, you've made it a really tough environment for the teachers. That same school, at some point that day, I sat in the teacher's lounge because the teacher I was covering for, it was her, I think it was was it a woman? Yes, because she came back, it was her. I sat in the teacher's lounge during her conference period in the morning, and I saw teachers whizzing in and out of there. Oh my, just reminded me of the stress when I was teaching full time. Whizzing in and out of there to use the bathroom really quickly. I'm like, good morning, how you doing? I'm okay. One of them was one of the teachers I went on to co-teach with that morning. I didn't realize at the time. Seemed so stressed. They come in with their bundle of copies, put it down, try to get copies. Oh, there's no coffee left. Go to the bathroom real quickly. Say, oh, someone's in the bathroom. Let me go to another one. Whizzing back to their classroom. Hurry, hurry, hurry. I was just reminded of how you can't even go to the bathroom. You have to rush. Most other jobs, you can go to the bathroom. I wonder if airline pilots have the same problem when they're in flight. There's usually 2 of them, though. That's off topic. Those teachers seem stressed. They seem stressed. And one guy, it was Monday morning. Remember, this is Monday morning. One guy came in. I was like, good morning. How you doing? He said, I'm okay. I'm a little stressed. I was thinking, already? So I said to him, already? He said, yeah. He was like, dag, Monday morning. We're already stressed. Teaching is stressful. Yeah. So that's what I experienced that first day. Yeah. And I did go to 3rd class for a while. And that was the Algebra 1 class. Was it Algebra 1? Yes. And he was trying to do some foundational algebra. No, yes, Algebra 1. Yes. And similar situation. Too many kids in the class. This one seemed a little better. The kids at least weren't disrespecting him, saying he doesn't know how to teach. But were they? I don't think they were. But the teachers seemed frustrated and stressed. They seemed stressed rather, not frustrated. They seemed stressed. The kids were off task in all 3 of those classes. The kids were disengaged. The kids seemed like not all of them, some of them just seemed like they've given up because the math is too hard. They need some of them probably need one-on-one help, but how are you going to get one-on-one help? There's 30 kids, 28 kids, 25, well, 25 is average. There's like 28 kids in the class, And if somebody's causing a disruption all the time, that is the person who gets all the teachers' attention, and you're struggling. I spent a day. Is it a whole day? Yes, it was a whole day in an elementary class. It was 5th grade, English language arts. Yay. I had a nice day. It was a nice, 5th grade, they switch. So you have one group in the morning, then they have lunch specials or whatever. Then you have another group in the afternoon. What I love about being there for half the day is, as I'm doing attendance, I'm walking around, I'm creating a seating chart so I know their names, because, in kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, their names are on the desk, but when they're older, no, that doesn't happen. So they're so funny when they're like, how do you know my name already? Because I created a seating chart when I was doing attendance. So I that day I had to walk around and keep them on task, because there were a few characters in there. Not bad kids, just characters, You got to work with the character. You got to stay on top of the characters, because they'll set off the rest of the class. But I can't complain. I had a decent day. However, and this was 5th grade. However, the poor substitute next door to me with the 4th grade class, I don't think she's ever going back to that school. The kids in the 5th graders of my class, and some of them were a handful, but the 5th graders of my class were saying to me, can you do something about that noise? Because I can't concentrate. Because there was a time when they had to read independently. And there was a time when I had to call the office, and I was like, no, it's not for me. But the substitute next door, you need to send someone from behavior. We're hearing through the walls the whole day, both the classes. Sit down, be quiet. Sit down, be quiet. At different times, I hear even an administrator come in, another teacher come in, yell at them. They're quiet for a little while, then they go back to being wild. Oh my goodness. And they're only 4th graders. They're not even in middle school yet. They're not in high school. Those kids were wild in fourth grade. Fourth grade. And I know that when the teacher's away, the mice will play. I know that when I was a kid, when we had a sub, we would turn up. Hopefully not to that extent, because that was crazy. They were yelling and they were out of their seats and they just lost their minds. I was so grateful that I had the job that I had and not the one next door. I don't think she's coming back. But I could not believe that those were fourth graders who were torturing that woman like that. I don't think she's coming back. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Education Today. We'll be back next time with more current topics on all things education. In the meantime, you can email any questions or comments you have about the show to edtodaypodcast@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please hit the subscribe button and consider leaving a review on whichever platform you are listening. We are listener supported, so if you are able to give a one-time or monthly donation, check out the show notes for ways in which you can give. Check out my blog for more about my experiences in education at medium.com/@SOKO. That's medium.com/@SOHKOR. You can also find me on Instagram at @SOKO_rights. That's @SOHKOR_rights. See you next time, and thank you again for listening.